15 or whenever the big melee was. How about that? There we go. Lap 15 or so, it kind of got upside down for us. We thought we kind of slid in some oil, thought we missed the wreck, and we flat sided the right side of the car. And when the lightning and the rain came, we were sitting on pit road with 2 flat tires and a pancaked right side. And I kept telling the driver, it's fine. It's nothing more than a Darlington stripe, right? It's just a little bit of narrowing up. And we were able to put tires on it when they pulled the red flag, and our car was fine. Once we beat the fenders out, we were okay. And Michael's MO and my MO to Michael is go do what we try to do, win races. Don't ride around the back. See if we can run fast.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take some questions from our media. If you have a question on the Zoom platform, please raise your hand. And in the media center, utilize the microphone in the back. We're going to kick it off with Jeff Gluck. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Drew, back here. Hey, can you tell us about the Michael that you know? I mean, what kind of person is he for the fans that may not be as familiar with him?
So the Michael that I know, he's a great guy, super loyal, super honest. And that's the reason I came to work for him. You know, he had a long conversation with, hey, I need to go out and get a crew chief. Who should I get? And he actually pulled one of my former drivers, Carl Edwards, and he's close with Carl, and he called him, and Carl said, you need to go after Drew. I was still under contract, and through all that, Michael and I started talking, and I liked his honesty and his ability to say, you tell me what you think I need to be doing. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And that's our working relationship. He's super loyal. He's super honest. And he knows at the end of the day, no matter what, the spotter says to him, the owner, I say to him, it's for the better good of the 34 car. And he doesn't wear his ego on his sleeve. Super humble guy. That's he's fun to work with. I mean, even if I get frustrated and say the first half of the race, I was frustrated with Michael today. And I was like, kind of, it's okay. That's a reset. Get your button gear and let's get going. And in the second half of the race, I couldn't be any prouder, obviously. But I think Michael is a guy that it's fun to work with because you don't have to hold anything back. It's you can talk to him about what you need to get better, and that's all he cares about.
Awesome. We're going to take our next one from Luis Torres. Go ahead.
Thank you. Drew, congrats on the win. Just tell us how sweet is it to get this one, because it's under weird circumstances where it was a delay and everything, but also just knowing the fact that you guys finally got it done, because in the past, Michael has had strong runs, but just luck wasn't on his side until now.
Yeah, I think Michael has done a really good job his entire career at Speedway racing of wedging himself in with probably a subpar car and kind of just making sure he was there at the end. And that never wins races, but he's always come out on the better part of that. And we've kind of taken the initiative of, hey, our cars are getting better. We're getting better at mile and a half. We're getting better at short tracks. Our Speedway cars are getting better. Front row is building. We got cars now that are closer to winning. And it's not to say we were the fastest car today or we were the fastest car. Obviously, we weren't if you looked at qualifying. But our cars are good enough to where he can be aggressive and make moves and not worry about just staying in line, maybe go for a win. And I think that mindset, a spotter change this year, Michael having that aggressive attitude of not just trying to get fifth, go for a win. All of that kind of worked out into our favor a little more than it has in the past.
All right, we're going to take our next one from Bob Palkers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Drew, I mean, when you're crew chief for a guy who's gone over 350 starts without a win, are you thinking, like what do you think your chances are of winning, and what, and do you ever think like, well, this guy is just not destined to win?
I don't have that outlook, but I do have I'm a realist, right? Like I'm at Front Row Motorsports and with Michael McDowell and our team, we're not Chase Elliott. We're not Hendrick Motorsports. So you have to pick your chances. I get super fired up when I come speedway racing. I love to come to Daytona and Talladega, and so does Michael. And those are chances for us. Everybody says they have a chance when they come here, but in reality, there's a handful of guys that run good at these places weekend or every time we come. Michael's one of those guys. And I think, when we come here and when we come back next week, we might not have the fastest car, at the road course, but we have a chance to run really well. And if circumstances play out just like tonight, we could be there at the end. And we have to maximize those chances because there's only 5 or 6 of them a year for Front Row versus, if you're at Stewart Haas or if you're at Penske or Hendrick or someplace like that.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Mark Garrow. Go ahead.
Thank you. Congratulations, Drew. That was obviously one of the biggest upsets in Daytona 500 history, and you guys can be proud of being part of that. How do you manage the season now? You've got a victory. You put yourself in prime position to be the Cinderella story for the playoffs, and we're just a race into the year. How do you manage this from this point on to make sure you guys indeed are there?
You know, I think the main thing, Mark, is Michael and I have already talked about it. We don't have to points race for the next few weeks, right? Like we can go a lot of races where I can make calls at both road courses and the Poconos and the places like that where we're looking for stage points. You know, how do we win a stage? How do we get stage points? How do we do things like that? You know, to follow up on like Bob's question, at Front Row Motorsports, there's a lot of times when we're doing what we can. If we're running 15th, we don't want to screw that up. And I don't think I have to have that attitude, you know, for at least the foreseeable future. You know, just taking this all in right now, thinking about next week, it's win or nothing, you know, just like if we're running third at the end of the race and Chase Elliott's leading the race, and there's a good chance he's really fast. We can't beat him on the same tires. Why not pit and try and beat him? Calls like that, where a year ago, or if we didn't have this win, third place is really good at Front Row Motorsports. You stay there and you take the safe call. Now you can be a little more aggressive on something like that.
Do you have to have a little bit of a mental reset now because of you're in a completely brand new circumstance?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a circumstance I haven't been in a while. I've said, you know, when I got really lucky when I first came into Cup and won a couple races right off the get go, and man, I should have enjoyed those a little more. And this one, I'm gonna have a good time in Daytona tonight and kind of celebrate this one, because you never know when the next one's gonna come. But yeah, it's a different circumstance for both Front Row and myself and Michael. So we're gonna have to learn for a little bit. We're gonna have to think about it. And to be honest, we haven't thought about that yet. You know, we're gonna through all this commotion Tuesday, kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, now we're going road course racing. What was our goals again? You know, when were we supposed to be in the simulator to test Phoenix stuff? Are we still doing that now? So we have to rethink a few things there for sure.
All right, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Jacob Seelman. Go ahead, Jacob.
Thanks, Marissa. Sorry, toggling mute there. Drew, can you put what this means into words? You know, obviously it's huge for Michael, you know, breaking that 0 for 357 streak. But what does this mean for you after so many years of bouncing between drivers as a crew chief to finally have one come together like this at the Daytona 500?
It's unbelievable. You know, you never know when you're going to get that next win. And when we talk about when I do Race Hub or when I do a show and they're saying, what was it like that night in Daytona? I don't remember it. You know, it happened so fast. And I thought, man, if I ever get that chance again, I'm going to enjoy it. And I made the move to Front Row Motorsports because of Michael McDowell and because of Bob Jenkins. I saw what they wanted to build, and I wanted to be part of that. You know, we are getting better. We are one of the NASCAR teams that's getting bigger and better every year. We're not trying to downsize, and we're not cutting corners, and we're trying to get better. And it might be a small step, and it might not be obvious, but that's why I wanted to come over here. And when I took that leap, there's a good chance you're not going to win. And like I said earlier, you got to take the opportunities when they present themselves, and speedway racing is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do that. We focused on that. Michael works really hard at it. And I think personally, my eyes are red, not because I had champagne in them, but I was tearing up out there. I mean, I just sat on the pit box and thought, man, I didn't know if this day would ever come. It's surreal, honestly, sitting here, because it's been so long. It's exciting as I'm rambling.
To follow up on that, I know this changes things just in terms of the playoff perspective and being able to try different things through the year. But for a team like Front Row that doesn't always have the resources of a Hendrick or a Stuart Haas, you know, financially, they may not release the purse anymore, but, you know, traditionally over $1 million to the winner. What does this do for you guys from a resources standpoint to change the trajectory?
It does a lot of things. I think both when you look at how we're going to plan our season, I think we start planning our season for the end of the season, right? The money we were going to spend in March and April and May, it's like, well, can we save some there and put it towards the end of the year? And it's a great day for Bob. He's put so much into it. I wish he was here. He'll he'll sit down and we'll talk about that. See if we can kind of divert some of this money from February so that it goes towards the later part of the season, and maybe not right when the playoffs start, maybe a month before that, so that we can kind of get used to what we have going on and things like that. But like you said, we have to spend money very wisely at Front Row. And part of that is knowing when to spend it, when to spend it on road courses, when to spend it at mile and a half, and when to spend it at speedways. And the second half of the season looks a lot better to spend it than the first half right now.
Thank you, Drew. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Davey Segal. Go ahead.
Yeah, Drew, back here. So 3 or 4 wins now have come here at this place, 2 of them in this race specifically. I mean, what is it about this place that just jives with you?
I've been lucky. Like someone said that the other day, they looked at my stats here and they'd been really, really good. And this is a place that's such a crapshoot, because at Talladega, they haven't been good, and it's similar style racing. I think when you look at guys that run good here as drivers, they embrace it and they love it. And they're not thinking, oh, it's one of those things, I hope I don't get wrecked. It's how do I win? And I don't know if there's anything to it, but I love coming to Daytona. There is no part of whether it's the 4th of July or the second race of the season, or it's the first race of the season, coming to Daytona is a super exciting time for me. I love the aspect of the racing. I think, the last few years, these have been my chances to win races as a crew chief. So that's helped embrace some of the love to come down here. When it was more of a handling racetrack, I really liked that part of it. And now that the strategy has kind of changed, I've embraced that. It's a place unlike Talladega where it gets clogged up at the end of the race and you have to be at the front. You can't make it 3 or 4 wide very easily to get from 20th to the lead in 10 laps like you can at Talladega. So just the strategy part of Daytona. Yeah, it's been a place that I've really embraced, and I don't know if it's luck or not. Either way, I'm going to keep riding it.
So the strategy aspect of things, I mean, some people may say, well, it comes down to a lot of luck because of the drafting and the packs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, you play the strategy really well here. And in a race like this where it's single file, strategy means more than just luck. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you go and strategize these races?
Yeah, we've sat down with Michael and we've talked about this before. And I see it from my past, when I was with Matt Kenseth and guys like that, they kind of helped mold that into me, where Daytona, it gets fairly narrow. We look at it and we say, oh, they're 3 wide. They are tight when they're 3 wide. And if you don't want to be 3 wide at the end of the race, you can kind of block that a little bit. Talladega, you can't. The end of the race at Talladega, you can come from about anywhere and get to the front. With 50 to go at Daytona, my job as a crew chief is get my driver cycle to the front. He's got to be in the front 10 to have a chance to win this race, because they're going to get clogged up and they're going to make it, really hard to get 3 wide, and you got to be up there. So I do whatever I can to kind of prep a few stops before that to where I can take gas only, 2 tires, whatever it takes to kind of cycle into the top 10. And that usually puts you in a pretty good position to where if you can't capitalize, you're there at the end. So you're welcome.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Chris Knight. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Drew, congratulations on the victory. I was just wondering how quick you start thinking about playoffs.
About 5 minutes ago, I kind of thought about it and thought, oh man. I think I start looking at that in the next week and a half, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a whirlwind the next couple of days. And then I'll have to get jammed into, okay, I got to get to the road course and see what's going on there. And heck, it might be a fun time the next couple of days, and I won't even leave Daytona and just stay down here until the road course race. But I think probably by the middle of next week, we're thinking, okay. And to be honest with you, Chris, I'm one of these guys that I think I can only take so much information at a time. And I don't look that far out. I'm looking at the next 6, 7, 8 weeks of races, and I'm working with the shop foreman and my car chief and my engineers on what we need to do to prepare for all that stuff. I'm not looking that far out ever, because I just feel like that gets clogged up and I'm not focused as much as I need to on the next week. Now that we've won, I need to take some time and do that. I need to take some time and look further out and say, okay, these are the cutoff races. These are the first few races in the playoffs. What do we need to do to be better or prepared for those?
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
No problem, Chris.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Andrew Curling. Go ahead.
you know, you mentioned how it's just all a whirlwind, especially the next couple of days. You know, the racer mentality sinks in on like, all right, focusing on the next one. How long are you gonna soak in and enjoy this victory?
I'm gonna lie to you and say probably till tomorrow afternoon, but there's a good chance I'm gonna go to my motorhome in about an hour and I'm gonna look at the playoffs after Chris's question there and kind of start thinking about some of that stuff. We have a simulator date later this week where we're on a sim for the Daytona road course. So we obviously got to switch gears quickly. And that's one thing this sport does, right? You can't rest too much on what you did the previous weeks because 5-6 days later you're showing up somewhere else and you got to go do something different. So I would say by Wednesday morning I'm full-fledged on the road course, and then what we can do to help build this 34 car.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Lee Spencer. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you and congratulations, Drew. I'm wondering, just given your background with Roush and everything, and you worked with Jimmy Fennig for so many years, you were so good at super speedway. Did all of that kind of help mold you for this moment?
Yeah, I think it did. You know, I worked around Todd Parrott quite a bit as a peer early in my career. I also, to be honest, David Reagan helped a lot of this. David Reagan is one of the best speedway racers I've been around. When I was at Roush and I was with Matt, and then I was with David in 2011. Jimmy was Matt's crew chief, and Matt always wanted to draft with David because it was the tandem drafting, and that got Jimmy and I pretty close. So whenever we set up cars and whenever we talk about things, and even throughout this weekend, Jimmy and I talked quite a bit while he was down here with the Roush cars. So I think it did help. Lee, it helped me understand what the drivers were talking about because I was very fortunate to work with people that had won races down here and were really good at the crew chief part of it. But I was able to work with Matt Kenseth and David Reagan and some really good restrictor plate drivers early in my career that kind of helped me kind of figure out Daytona and Talladega.
And I'm just kind of curious, you know, Ford kind of perfected this working under one system deal. And at what point, knowing that you're with all these powerhouse guys, the Team Penske guys, the Kevin Harvick guys, Harvick, Logano, they've won races, you know, Keselowski's a champion. You know, at what point did you think that this might be real?
Well, when we came off pit road with them, in the past, we've sourced out our pit crew, and our pit crew has been the second, third, fourth best pit crew for our organization, right? So if I'm trying to run with them, yet come down pit road and have to leave with them, it's so important to leave. And our pit crew, all day long, whenever we put tires on it, left with who they should leave with. When we put gas only in it, they did what they should have done. So when we dropped Jax at the same time as the 2 car who pitted right in front of us and left with them off pit road, and we were like a 4 or 5 car Ford train right there, I thought we're in a good spot. You know, I just talked to some Ford guys on the way in and thought I wasn't sure if it was going to be us, but I knew everybody else in the field was going to have to come through a lot of Fords to be able to win this race. And it just happened to be us. We were kind of controlling the race, leading it. And, you know, when you've got 4 or 5 Fords in the front, especially when a couple of them are Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick, it's going to be really hard for the guys in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th to be able to get by us. And we were just, you know, lucky enough to be able to tag on with that train and have a car good enough. And Michael made all the right decisions at the end.
Thank you. Enjoy the victory.
Thank you, Lee.
All right. And to everyone, we are also being joined by the general manager of Front Row Motorsports, Jerry Freeze. So from a remote location. So he is also a part of this Zoom. So if you have any questions for the two of them, please, you know, feel free to direct it at one of them. We'll continue. Jerry, did you want to kind of walk us through how you're feeling right now? And thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm just blown away, speechless, and I can't wait to hug Drew there. He made some great calls on the pit box throughout the race, and just really happy for our whole team, really happy for our car owner, Bob Jenkins, who's just put a lot into this over the last 15 years, and especially most importantly to Michael McDowell. He's a very deserving winner of the Daytona 500, and so happy that he got his first win in our biggest race.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into some more questions from the media. So we will continue on and take a question from Dustin Albino. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, this one's for Drew. Drew, think back 2 years ago when you first joined Front Row Motorsports. What was your initial reaction when you found out you would be working with Michael?
Well, Michael had kind of tried to recruit me a little bit, and I kind of filled him out, and I kind of thought about, hey, what do I want to do here? And then, after talking to Jerry and talking to Michael, they kind of laid out what Front Row Motorsports, their vision and their future. And I had seen it from afar, right? Like, Front Row Motorsports gets a little better every single year. You can see it with the points. You see it with race finishes. You see it with equipment. Just being in the garage when their car goes by. I remember when they first entered the sport, and I know what their cars look like now. And I thought, you know what, that is a challenge that I think is super cool to be a part of. And like I said earlier, and at this point in my career, I didn't know if I was going to win races again. I thought, but if I can help this place get better, that'd be really, really fun to do. And I think we have. We've gotten better as a group. Bob Jenkins puts a little more in every year to push us over the edge to get a little bit better. And you see it slowly build. And we're no superpower by any means, but we're getting better and better. So that's a fun thing to be a part of. I think when I first came over there, I saw that, and I've seen it every year. I think every single year we have made changes where we needed to make changes to get better. And they're not huge. They're not the things that some of the big, 3 or 4 teams are doing, but they're things that we had a new spotter today. We had to go out and get a new spotter, and we went out and got what we thought was the best spotter we could get. And Clayton Hughes did a phenomenal job, and we wouldn't have been in victory lane if we didn't have someone like him doing it. So, things like that, where we just take steps at a time, that might not be noticed on the outside as huge steps. Those are little things that are climbing the ladder for us.
Thank you. And I also got one for Jerry. Jerry, I'll make you think back 3 years ago, and you go out and get Michael. He came off a consistent year with LFR. What made you want to go after Michael McDowell, who's been put through the ringer really throughout his career?
Yeah, I think like you saw tonight. I mean, Michael's always shown a great aptitude at the speedways. He's an accomplished road racer. He gives us a shot to win at tracks that we feel like we can be competitive at. And he's a good guy. He fits our program really well. We've had probably our best success with drivers that, have had 5 or 6 years of experience under their belts that maybe didn't quite work out at a top tier organization. But they're still hungry. They're still trying to prove their mark in the sport. And they do a great job for Front Row, and they're great ambassadors for our sponsors, and they're just good, solid people. And I'm talking about David Reagan, David Gilliland, and on to Michael. So anyhow, Michael just fits our program very well. He outran us all the time with the 95 car when he drove for them. So when he was available and we were making some changes in our program, it was very easy to make it work and put Michael in the 34 car a few years ago.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Matt Weaver. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi there. My question is for Drew. Apologies if this was asked earlier. I just jumped in. But Michael is such a successful and prominent road racer, and I'm curious if there's an opportunity for him to continue upsetting the field, because there's way more road courses this year, and it plays right into y'all's wheelhouse as a team and him as a driver.
Yeah, I think Michael and I are honest. When we go to the Roval and we go to Watkins Glen, it's hard to beat Martin Truex and Chase Elliott. They've got great race cars, and they've turned themselves into superior road racers. So I think what you saw last year at the Daytona road course, when there wasn't much track time, we were able to jump on and we ran in the top 7 the entire day. And I pitted from 5th or 6th, I think, with the green white checker to put tires on it because of what I said earlier. We couldn't have won from where we were at. And I thought, man, if we get another quick restart, maybe a wad up in turn 1, like you do at the Roval on a restart, we can sneak by here and we can steal a win. But I think the fact that we go to Road America, where Michael's won in an Xfinity car, we go to COTA, we go to these places, Indy road course, where some of these guys that are oval track guys that have turned themselves into really good road racers, Michael's natural talent can kind of compete, against a Hendrick car and against a Gibbs car. So I think it's definitely a possibility. We ran really well last year at Pocono. I think places like that where you can still win and you can kind of upset some of those guys. I think there's definitely a possibility. At least I'm going to hope so.
My second question, several drivers had mentioned, and not negatively, but just honestly, that one of the reasons you guys were able to push really well was something had happened to the spoiler. I couldn't see what happened to the spoiler, and how does it help you guys push really well when it comes to late in the race and it's time to go?
Well, I think I don't know if it was better or not. We were talking about that. What happened was the last 6 inches of the spoiler, we had side slapped the wall and we had right side damage, and it kind of bent the spoiler. In the 1.5 mile car, that would have been worse. We are less drag if we had the spoiler closer to the back window. So I am not sure if it was better or worse. All weekend long, Michael said it was the best pushing car he has ever had down here. And that's a great thing for a guy like Michael and Front Row Motorsports, right? Because when we pull out a line, people don't want to go with you a lot of times. But if you can push all day long and they realize you've helped them, it kind of builds some in the bank to where they'll go with you. So our car was narrowed up a little bit on the right side from the damage. The spoiler was kind of twisted back the last 6 inches of it and kind of opened up. Sure, it helped us get to victory lane. So I don't know if it was better or worse on the racetrack. I've seen it go both ways. Yeah, it was something we were a little concerned about because, like I said, on a 1.5 mile car, a lot of times the opposite has been less drag. So it definitely was something that was on our mind when we first took off there after the rain.
Thank you, Drew.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Noah Lewis. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, this one could be for either of you guys, but we've seen teams make the playoffs get further manufacturer and team support to help them progress. How strong is the manufacturer support over at Front Row right now? And would you guys expect any additional help, especially heading into the playoffs?
I think that's you, Jerry.
Yeah, I'll take that, Drew. I think we get all the technical support that any Ford team gets right now. I guess we don't know what we don't get, but I feel like we get everything, and our drivers are on the simulator quite a bit. I would think that a lot of what we do is in collaboration with Roush Fenway, who's our technical partner. And I could imagine that maybe there might be a little more similar time for Michael at some of those playoff races when we get closer to that. And, other than that, I think Ford's doing as much for us as they would anybody else. So with the tools and all the support that they do. And, but we would certainly welcome more if they'd like to give it to us for sure. And obviously, they've got a vested interest in our race team. They want to see us succeed. We did get into the playoffs a few years ago. We were drummed out in the first round. We'd like to improve on that for sure. And so we'll work real hard to try to have our package set for those first 3 races. But a lot of racing between now and then. And, who knows, maybe we might be able to get another W before then too.
Thanks, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our next one from Stephen Conley. Go ahead, Stephen.
Drew, I don't know if you've had the chance to really kind of think about this, but now you lose that car until 2022 to go into the museum. Starting to think about Talladega, any impact there, or are you guys good with your car and getting this one broke down?
Jerry's probably more sad to hear about that than me.
I know, I forgot that.
There's air conditioners and brakes and things that in that car that we're not going to get back. But to be honest with you, I'm not big into saying they're special cars. I never have in my career. I think the next car you build should be better than the one you built the time before. So it's unfortunately we wrecked a lot of cars at Front Row today. We got one in victory lane that's needs a right side on it and is going to stay in Daytona, USA, and the other 2 got killed. So we wrecked a few speedway cars. So we're going to have to figure out which one to build. But it'll have to be a different one because I think we went through quite a few of them today, Jerry.
And Jerry, with that being said, how long is it going to take before you and Bob are thinking about a special place to put that car when you get it back next year?
That's a good one. The car that we won Talladega with, we restored it and gave it to Bob a few years ago. So I'm sure he'll find a special place for this one too. And I did forget about the fact that we lose that car. I was actually thinking at the end of the race, well, at least we got one that's repairable for Talladega. But that's a good problem to have, and we'll take it all day long.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and we're going to take another question from Bob Palkris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, this is for Jerry. First off, I think they do pay you some money to lease the car for a year. So, but every year in around September, since your drivers are on 1-year deals, it's like, is McDowell coming back or not? And it's always kind of iffy. And I'm curious, what kind of tips the decision for you guys to keep him?
Because I got the trophy, Bob. I know.
Jerry hung up on you. I don't know.
Jerry, do we still have you?
Bad internet in Winston.
Okay, I think we may have lost Jerry.
Oh, you walked in, got nervous on that question.
We're gonna. Hey, Dustin Long, did you have a question for Drew? We'll see if Jerry rejoins.
Yes. Drew, can you, and forgive me if this has been asked, I missed a little bit of part of this, but do you almost view yourself and Michael as kindred spirits in the sense of guys that have been in this series for a long time? Certainly you've had some success in one, but it's not as been as much as others. And I'm curious, do you view yourself as in the sense that kindred spirit, and also what keeps somebody going through the ups and downs that you have gone through in your career, and even like Michael? Well,
To be honest with you, Dustin, like, I love race cars and I love being a crew chief. I grew up in a athletic household where there were a lot of coaches around, and I run the crew chief role like that. And I'm want to manage and kind of be in charge of this group. But to your point, it's difficult when you don't feel like you have a chance to win some weeks. That's hard. The Michael and I part of it, Michael and I, we have a super honest relationship, and it's really good where we can go into the lounge and I can say, hey, you screwed this up. And he trusts me and he says, okay, let's look at that. There's a lot of race car drivers that race on Sundays where if you said that, you would be looking for a job on Monday, and not to the betterment of the team. I mean, I'm doing it because Michael knows if I can tell him on the radio, and he can tell me on the radio at lap 50 something isn't right, and we can hash that out as a group. If we spend that time to finish 1 or 2 spots better, that's for the better for the 34, and we're happy about it on Monday. So the fact that Michael and I in our career know, heck, put your egos down and what's it going to take to be better. That part of it, I think we've worked out really well, and that's the relationship part of it that's gone good. Also, your first win came in your first race as a Cup crew chief, and in 2009, obviously a different organization, different expectations. Yeah. But is the I don't know if surprise level or just what are the feelings like today compared to that first? Because even though you guys were a good team, I don't know if people were expecting you to do that immediately that year. Yeah, when I got my first win as a Cup crew chief, I had won like the previous 2 or 3 Xfinity races like leading up to the end of the season. So I had like a 4 or 5 win streak. We were winning all the time with Carl Edwards. We won with Matt in the 500. We won the next week at California. It was like, man, this winning thing, it comes pretty often, right? Like everything's going good, and then it doesn't happen. And then, the 500 with David Reagan, we get black flagged, and Trevor Bayne wins it, and we were lucky enough to come back in the July 4th and win it. And I always said, if I get that chance again, I'm gonna soak it up a little bit. And I sat on the pit box so it was over, and I was pretty sure we won. But I didn't want to think about it. The guys are celebrating, and I thought, man, I don't want to think about this. What's going to happen? And then when I got off the pit box and they said 34 to victory lane, to be honest with you, I was tearing up. It was, it's something that I don't take for granted anymore, and I probably did 10 years ago. It's definitely special to win in this series. So it's going to be enjoyed. That's for sure. Thank you, Drew. No problem, Dustin.
All right, and it looks like Jerry is back. So Bob is going to ask his question for Jerry again. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Jerry, when it comes to September and your guys are always on 1-year deals, the question is McDowell coming back? Is he not coming back? It seems like it takes a while. I'm curious what tips the favor for him, for you guys that you guys have kept him year in, year out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think he's probably in better shape for next year now than he's ever been. But anyhow, Michael's just a great fit for us. Loves Travel Stops as our major sponsor on the 34 car. He fits their program very well. They're very fond of Michael. He does a great job for them. Michael, he goes the extra mile for all our partners. Freight Auctions has been a partner with us for years. They're stepping up their program quite a bit this year. And it's a big part because of Michael and what he does. So it all has to do with partnerships for us. And it's always just trying to marry the driver with the partner and the program to make it all fit and make it all work. And unfortunately, Front Rows just hasn't been in a position to do multi-year deals with sponsors. And so we've been on single-year deals with them, just like we have been with the drivers. So maybe with today's success, hopefully that might change some things. But, I think we have to prove that we're a solid team week in and week out to be in that position. I think, Michael's just a great fit for Front Row all the way around. So we've maintained that relationship for about 3 years now.
All righty, and we are going to take our next question from Sterling Price. Go ahead, Sterling.
Thank you. This question is for both Drew and Jerry. How does a victory, what is the significance of a Daytona 500 victory? How much it means to a relatively small team like Front Row Motorsports?
Yeah, I'll start. It means everything, everything to us, Sterling. I think Drew said it best. We're a team that incrementally gets a little bit better each and every year. And that's basically the mandate that Bob Jenkins puts on us. He just wants to know that we're getting better. What are we going to do to get better next year? He doesn't have unrealistic expectations. I think we've probably exceeded this year's expectations already. But for us, I think I just talked about the partnership thing, and obviously that will help with the relationships that we currently have to make those even stronger for the future. And then hopefully find some other people that want to be part of our program and know that we've got a good value proposition out there and that we're a team that's capable of winning races. So now Front Row Motorsports has won 3 races since 2013. There's not a lot of higher powered organizations that can say that. So I think when we're in the marketplace and maybe competing against some other teams, it'll help us stand pretty competitively against those other teams.
And very similar to what Jerry was talking about on the partner side, from my view, it helps me with employees. When we lose a guy or when we need a guy or we want to upgrade, we can go and, people see us as, hey, they were in the playoffs and they won races and they know that possibility is out there. So I think it helps both the competition side and the sponsorship side. You've got a little more value that you can provide people and it definitely is more attractive to them to want to come work for you.
Well, enjoy the moment, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Cameron Cox with 12 News Phoenix. Go ahead.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Can y'all just talk about Michael's his career and how he stuck with it all these years, and just to be the have his resilience that he's had his entire career, and just can you speak on that a little bit?
I think from my point of view, when I've been around Michael for now this is the 3rd year, to see his willingness to work hard. He's a guy that's got 4 kids at home and a wife, and he's trying to be a dad during the week. And then all of a sudden I tell him in the middle of the day, hey, there's simulator time opened up in 2 hours. Can you make it? He does what it takes to drop everything. And it says a lot about his wife, Jamie. He drops everything and he goes and does that because he knows that's what he needs to do to be the better race car driver. He's a guy that is willing to do whatever it takes. If 2 years ago, Michael was on the keto diet and he was losing weight and he was really happy, and I didn't see his performance in the race car getting any better. So I told him I think he needs to stop it, and he stopped it. like that. And I think his performance got better in the race car, and he was eating healthier and things like that. And Michael's willing to do whatever it takes. And the fact that, he's willing to dig and claw and do what the things on the racetrack he needs to do, but he does it off the racetrack to make sure he stays in a job. And this is the only thing he knows. He's been driving race cars his entire life. And it's just like we talked about earlier. It's frustrating when you go to the racetrack thinking, hey, I don't have a chance to win, but I got to keep doing this. I got to keep doing this. So to have that drive and to have that work ethic, that's a good role model for not only myself, as the rest of the guys on the team and the young guys we bring at front row, the John Hunter Nemechek, the Anthony Alfredo. Those guys, they can see how hard this guy who's been a veteran works at his craft. That's the thing about Michael that really stands out to me.
Yeah, and I'll echo that from the business side too. With Michael being a veteran driver, he will go the extra mile for whatever we ask for him on the business side, whether it's shooting content for sponsors, working with our PR man, Mac. They're always coming up with something new. A lot of it is driven by ideas that Michael has. So he is really engaged in what's going on with Front Row Motorsports, not just on the car side, but on the business side.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take our next question from Davey Segal. Go ahead.
Back here again, Drew. Back here. So 10 years ago was the last time you won. And Dustin mentioned that your first ever race as a Cup crew chief you won.
Yeah.
And you talked about how you got humbled in the years that followed that. And that's one of the reasons why you were pretty emotional about that. Did you ever think that you'd win again? Did you think you'd be back here?
Yeah. You never lose hope, right? Like, I'm a realist, right? When I go to Charlotte and to the Coke 600, it's like, this probably isn't going to be a great weekend, a great chance to win here. But when I come to Daytona and Talladega with Michael, and when we came to Daytona Road Course last year, those are chances, and you believe you have that opportunity. I never lost faith that I wouldn't do it again, but there are days that it's hard, right? There's days that why am I beating my head against the wall? If you don't have a chance to win, is it not fun? Is working these hours, doing this stuff, being gone from your family for a long time, is that worth it? But it is the chance, right? If we would have ran fifth tonight, I would have been really happy and I would have been in a great mood all week. And this is definitely worth it. This is icing on the cake. But yeah, I never lost faith that I wouldn't get back there and to victory lane. The older you get and the longer you get away from it, it definitely gets difficult.
Thanks, Drew.
No problem.
All right, we'll take our next question from Jesse Morrison. Go ahead.
Hey, Drew, I just wanted to ask, what it was like, in victory lane, just with you and Michael and what you guys said to each other, when he first got out of the car and, went up and talked to you.
I stayed on pit road at first, so I wanted to see Michael when he turned the corner. And to be honest, I tease Michael a lot because his heart rate's always way high in the car. And I guarantee his heart rate was well over 200 beats a minute when he was turning that corner. He was just super excited, the smile on his face, like that joy. And like when we locked eyes and like he saw me and I saw him and like he was proud of me, you could tell, and I was proud of him. It was something that, like when you don't get to win regularly, you don't enjoy. Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers see it 9 times a year. I mean, it's heck all the time. Every fourth race, they're doing something like that. But getting that joy from Michael, that was super, super special. The guys on the team, a lot of these guys had never won before. We had a thing at my house a few weeks ago, and the trophy they give the crew chief in victory lane in 2009, they gave it to me. I had it sitting up and they were all looking at it and talking about it and seeing those guys' eyes light up going to victory lane and Michael's, it was pretty impressive. I was trying to take it all in and those guys are so excited. It was neat to be a part of.
Alrighty, well, that is all the time we've got. Drew has some other obligations as a Daytona 500 crew chief winner. So thank you so much for taking some time with us, Jerry. Thank you as well. And to the media.